Today I'm here at Gold Valley to show you a little twist on one of the all-time great methods, which is the pellet waggler. It's the end of the summer now, and a lot of these carp in here have been caught a number of times on the pellet waggler. And although that line and that method is still working, the carp are definitely getting a little bit more wary. And that's where today's method is scoring very well, not just here, but a lot of other commercials. And that's a toned down pellet waggler. 4 5-gram crystal float, 6-pound mainline, 0.18 hook length and an 18 hook. I still would have my normal pellet waggler set up along with my bomb rod, but this is a definite method that will get you a few bites on those hardest of days. I've picked peg 58 here at Gold today. I know it's not going to be fantastic, a lot of the fish are down the lake in the wind, but it gives me the ideal opportunity to show you how I go about getting a few bites on this method when the fish are wary and have been caught on it a few times. They know what it's all about this time of year. Beginning of the summer you can cast a pellet waggler out and they'll be pulling your rod round. Now, like I say, they've been caught a few times on it and they are very wary. And this toned down version should hopefully today get us a few bites. I'm going to go through the gear in a minute and show you the exact setup that I'll be using today. Like I say, today we're going to specifically look at this toned down pellet waggler setup. If this was a match I would still have my normal wagglers set up, but this is definitely a method later on in the day, or if the day starts off very difficult, that will get you a few bites. The rod and reel exactly the same, 12-foot Tournament Pro. Again, lovely rod, nice and short, nice and light, ideal for fishing quick and fast with. The reel, the 3000 TDX. Slight twist with the main line. As you know, I'm an avid fan of fishing very heavy and durable line. Because we're fishing a slightly smaller float and for less fish, I've come down to 6-pound Dara ST. Now this is quite light for me, but it is still a very strong and durable line that isn't really going to let you down. Just gives you a little bit more freedom when you're using these smaller floats. Coming down to the business end, I've got a crystal waggler, 5 grams. Either side of the waggler are 2 Drennan pellet stops. Now these go nicely on the line. The waggler's fully loaded, so I don't need any shot. And what this does enable me to do, again, unlike the normal pellet waggler, is to move my depth. Even in the winter this can come into play, but this time of year when you're really searching for an odd fish, 8 or 10 fish today in a match will probably be very good, unless you're actually on the epicentre of where all the fish are. So 2 gripper stops either side, and this can just be moved. You can change the depth quite easily, as you can see there. I'm not a massive fan of changing the depth, as you probably know from when we fish the pellet waggler, but that's when the fish are really having it. Like I say, this is a specialist twist of the pellet waggler. Just have another rod set up in your bag for when the days are very hard, for when these wary fish at this time of year that have been caught and caught and caught are just being finicky. Now, when would I go on this rod? It's quite simple. If I'm fishing a normal pellet waggler and I wasn't getting any bites at all and I couldn't catch on the bottom, that would be a time to try it. But one of the biggest giveaways is if you're missing bites on a pellet waggler. If you're casting out, your float's flying under and you're missing them, or even if you're getting an odd tap on your rod. This says to me that the fish are very wary, they're clued up exactly to what's going on with the pellet waggler, and that's where this method can really score. Today I'm fishing towards the steps here. It's not produced that much in matches, but it's one of the reasons I've picked this peg. I don't want the rod to be getting pulled round every chuck. I want to be fishing for odd bites, odd fish, to really show you how this method can come into its own and score very, very well on commercials at this time of year. Coming down, I've just got a loop to loop, again with slightly finer line. I'm going to be leaving the float in there a lot longer, really waiting for an indication, waiting for a bite. So I'm not in and out as regular as I would be with a conventional pellet waggler, hence there's no swivel. Now again, as with the main line, a slightly lighter hook length, 0.18 today. Again, still very strong, still very durable. I can catch 100 pound plus on this and some big fish, but it's slightly toned down on our normal setup of 0.20, 0.22. The hook, again an eyed, size 18, pellet waggler hook from Guru. Again, it's a hook that I use, the Teflon coated wide gapes, or any of the real heavy pellet waggler hooks are my #1 choice for when there's a lot of fish. Again, slightly toning it down. There's not a massive choice of eyed hooks on the market as far as small eyed and strong carp hooks are concerned, and these at the moment are definitely one of my favourites. Again, a knotless knot, a band tied onto the hair with an 8mm pellet. The bait doesn't change, the feeding pattern doesn't change, but what does change greatly is the setup that we're using. Everything's toned down. The float isn't making a massive splash. What you've got to realise is these fish have been fished for for a lot of weeks on the trot. The splash of the float can scare them, so a nice light 4 or 5 gram slim float, cast out exactly the same feeding, can definitely result in some bites where you're not going to get bites on a pellet waggler, or where you get bites on a pellet waggler but you do miss them or foul hook the fish. The feeding's going to be very similar. I'm going to feed 5 or 6 pellets constantly, looking to get those fish competing and up in the water, and I'm going to look to hopefully catch a dozen or so fish on this smaller waggler setup to really show you how effective it can be. All my hook lengths for pellet waggler fishing are 2 foot long. A slight twist on this one, it's 3 foot long, again because I'm fishing slightly deeper. Now, as you know, we've got a rule that if you're using a swivel, it needs to be below the tip of your float when your float hangs down straight. I'm using loop to loop, so this can be anywhere. I'm not going to get any tangles around the float, purely because there's no weight there. What this rig does give me the license to do is to really search my peg. I can set the float 3 foot deep, or I can set it 5 foot deep. Again, like we have covered in the past, I'm not a massive fan of altering my depth of fishing deep on a waggler, but sometimes, especially this time of year or the next month or so, this setup can be very effective and catch you fish where you really don't think there are any.